The mountain ridge point 4875 is 4,875 meters high, and over there where you see the Indian tricolor is the Batra top. That is where Shaheed, late Captain Vikram Batra, performed the ultimate sacrifice for which he got the Param Chakra. 13 Jammu and Kashmir rifles first captured point 5140 mountain, and then they got to capturing this point 4875.
Point 4875 was the most dominating feature in this area, and the enemy also realized this, so they held this very strongly. And plus the terrain in this area is also very difficult. The gradient is extremely steep. So it requires, two Paramveer Chakras in one assault to capture this feature.
Very well said, sir.
And this, is a historic record that 13 Chakra has created, which is very difficult to replicate in any war, by any army of the world.
As you can see, these are, look at this ridge over here. The gradient here is very steep. And over there in the distance, you can see troops from 13 Jammu and Kashmir rifles who are trekking their way up, and they are commemorating and recreating the same route they took, and paying a homage to these mountains where they lost so many brethren, so many comrades in arms.
So you can see the flag flying, fluttering high with pride.
Yes.
And this all goes to the sacrifice made by Captain Vikram Batra, like I said, who earned his Paramveer Chakra here, laid down his life, made a supreme sacrifice for the honor of the nation, and paved the way for 13 Chakra to capture this feature.
Our flag does not blow with the wind. It blows with the last breath of every soldier that tries to protect it. My name is Anuksha, and we are here to discuss the story of a brave heart, Captain Vikram Batra, that is brought to us by the film Shershaah. We have with us Siddhant Malhotra, who would be playing the role of Captain Vikram Batra, Kiara Advani, who would be playing the role of Dimple Cheema, and of course, the director, Vishnu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what was your first reaction when you read the script? Because I remember the first time that I saw the trailer, my hair stood on end watching Captain Vikram, taking the one of the most serious warfares of Indian history. So, what was it like reading the script and the story?
Well, thank you. First of all, we're really happy with that response. I was actually fortunate enough to hear it from his own twin brother, Vishal Batra, who narrated the idea and the life story of his brother, and Shabir Boxwala, our producer. And you can't help but be in awe of the valor, the bravery, the sacrifice that Captain Vikram Batra made, and all the other soldiers made during the Kargil War in such tough and severe conditions for all of us, for the democracy that we have today, for the freedom that we have today. I was just so inspired to see this amazing personality who would, in the most toughest situations, say lines like pop culture lines like "Ye dil mange more, sir," "Ye dil mange more," after doing the first mission in Kargil. And that is such a cool yet inspiring headspace, I think, for the youth to really take a lot of inspiration from.
We had already decided our success signal before advancing for the attack, and it was like Bravo Company's success signal, "Oye Aaya," and which was passed to our Colonel Joshi on the radio set. And after the another bunker was captured, my company's success signal was ye Dil Mange More. The guys were so highly charged up that they're wanting that some more bunkers should have been there and we would have got the more chaps.
I heard the script directly and Vishnu sir narrated it to me. I had known very vaguely of the Kargil War. I was very young at that time. But I was extremely intrigued to know more when I was being narrated the story. And I had tears in my eyes at the end of the narration, and I just knew that this was a film that I had to be a part of. There are, there are just some stories which we do all kind of films, but there are certain true stories that are so inspiring and so moving that they stay with you in a way that it just is from your core. You just know that no, I want to be a part of this. I want this story to be made. I want people to know this. I want generations to know this, and I want people beyond India to know this, because this is a man who's one of our own, who's gone out there at the age of 24 and sacrificed his life in the bravest way possible. And then when I heard the character of Dimple Chima, I felt like if Vikram Batra was a brave man, he fell in love with a very brave girl as well. And that's probably what connected them, because they're so alike in that sense. She is equally strong, she's equally committed. I mean, she's the most endearing woman I had ever read about. I felt like I had never known of a story so unique, and it kind of made me re-believe in the fact that love like that exists.
Well, reading the script, forget about reading the script. The very first time I think pretty much, I think myself and Captain Vikram Batra were the same age. The war was happening, and this officer had done that, this officer had done that, and it's all been just a memory. It's been flashed out over the course of time. The first time you got to know in detail was through my writer Sandeep Srivastav. We were working on another script. I've known the writer for a very long time. So he was telling me, I said, what happened? No, brother, I'm just on a research on this kind of a script and based on this. I said, it sounds very familiar. And he started talking about it. So the first reaction is, oh my God, it's like that. And when you know that I never expected that it'll be part of the film. And I said, whoever is going to do this film is going to be so fortunate enough, is so privileged, is so honored. These are the things that comes into your mind when you hear the story. And when you got to know that you're doing the film, after you met Shabir Boxwala, the producer, then you met Karan Johar of Dharma, then you met Sid, and okay, now it's like you are really privileged to do, or you're really honored to do a film like this. The reaction is, oh my God. And the more and more you do the research, like, oh my God, it becomes like that. You just more and more, you learn more about it, through the people that you meet, through the offices that you meet. The wow factor was becoming bigger and bigger, and it's like, it's beyond what you can actually imagine. Because the very fact of, somebody actually willing to give their life, I don't know how internally it just feels that your life just it's taken out, and it's taken out for a very strong purpose. It's given for a very strong purpose. That is something which I'm not able to still comprehend that actually. It's so fascinating, especially a story of Captain Vikram Batra, So the wow factor really kept going more and more. And the wow factor, I think now it's going to go more and more beyond when you actually really want to know more stories like this, So that's a kind of a feeling, it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of astonishment, it's more and more than what the words can't just put that,
I'm just wondering, what was the inspiration behind the movie, and how important do you think it was for the movie to be authentic, for a story so moving?
Well, I think the inspiration first came from Captain Vikram Batra's father, where it was more of an intention that he wanted to do two things on his son. One is to write a book, and the other is for a film to be made on his son's life story. So they had the book many years ago, and now today finally there is a film particularly about his son and his life story. So I think the intention stemmed from there, and for us was to say it in the most. When you talk about authenticity, whether it's Vishnu, our director, or Sandeep, our writer, from the writing board or the preparation board, the idea was to not take away from the realism of the film. Even for me per se as an actor, was always to render lines which might sound extremely filmy, extremely flamboyant, and could be said with so much gusto. But yet the idea was to make it more spoken and relatable, how we know our friends and family to be like, so that people do not forget that this is a real story. So there's always an act of realism in it, so you possibly can connect to it, because we are fortunate enough to narrate a real life story. So Why try to make it like all our other films? So I think that's the attempt, and full marks to the whole team to really prep and give all the actors that kind of information.
I truly believe that the heart and soul of this movie is in the right place. And Vishnu sir's intention, all of our intention, was to be honest to the story and true to the emotions. And that's exactly, I mean, the minute we came on set, it was always Dimple and Captain Vikram Batra, and that's how we portrayed, our roles and our parts. And we were literally living those scenes. I don't think there was ever an element of anything that seemed like an act or like a performance. It was always, we were always in that moment. And I think I would give full credit to Vishnu sir for that, for for creating that atmosphere and for keeping us in that mind space through the filming. And then even the line, Sandeep sir, who's our writer, he was true to the in the 90s, the way the language they would speak. There's a lot of Punjabi in the film. There are a lot of dialogues in Punjabi, because that's how Dimple would probably speak to her father. That's the way they would, Dimple and Captain Vikram Batra would speak to each other. So keeping that balance correct, and even beat some of his iconic lines which people know. So we were in the best hands.
Yeah, I think when you talk about inspiration, so the story itself is an inspiration, actually. So when you hear the story, that is more than enough for you to get inspired. It's not only to make the film, also for the people who are going to know the story from now on, even the years to come by. That's enough inspiration to, because sometimes you sit and you feel, okay, man, what did I do? It makes you think, what did I do at that age, laughing around and having fun and all these things, aspiring to do something at the age of 24, and look what he has done, It just makes you think for a minute, So what are you going to do? At least, okay, you still have time. Okay, if not then, now what are you going to do? From now, this moment on, how is this story going to make a difference? How is it going to inspire you? And what are you going to, at least forget it, okay? If you're not going to do it for the country, let's start doing it from at least from the people nearby, How are you going to inspire them? How is your life and your story going to inspire them, I think these stories are already inspiring, so that's enough inspiration for us to actually re-narrate the story.
Kiara, I wanted to ask you, what was it like enacting Dimple? I mean, I see that there are all of these subtle nuances of the relationship that you got to portray. So I just wanted to understand, what was it like recreating the lives of Vikram and Dimple?
Well, firstly, I just want to say that I really truly feel it's very gracious of her to share this story with us.
Letting us share.
And let us share this story. She is a very integral part of Captain Vikram Batra's life, and it's definitely one of the most heartwarming love stories that we've at least ever heard of. And I feel, when I met with Dimple, I didn't go with any intentions of, seeing her body language, how she's going to talk, I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to understand her emotion. That's it. Because I felt like that is the only thing that I need to connect with her, to portray her in the film. And whether it was sitting and doing readings and, putting those scenes together, recreating those moments, the way Sir's even integrated in the film, enacting it with I was going to say Captain Vikram Batra, with Siddharth. I truly feel in those moments, I believe that we were, I don't know, I think there was something magical in the air. I feel all those moments, all those scenes, there was just some magic. At least now when I look back, I feel like I don't feel like there's Kiara or Sid in that. I always look at it, that's the first time I've ever looked on screen and felt like I'm watching somebody else, of when I'm seeing my own performance. Otherwise, you're always critical, you're always, finding problems in that. But now when I look back, I'm like, okay, this is their story. And I feel like no credit to myself, at least. I think it's the story that is so touching, and that it had left that impact with me. So I'm really hoping that, people connect to it the same way. And it's probably one of the most selfless and most strongest, the most strongest person, I can't say character because it's not a character, she's with us, but person that I've ever portrayed on screen.
I think it's also very aspirational, like their love story in real life. She's still unmarried.
Yeah.
And she felt the short amount of years that she spent with Captain Vikram Batra is enough love for a lifetime, and which is so special and such a classic old school romance that is still alive. And then again, I feel full credit to Vishnu for really capturing that and making us perform in, like I feel, which is in the song actually. My favorite moment in the love story, I would say, I was just watching the song again, is, I don't know if you've seen it, Rata Lambia, where me and Kiara, Dimple and Vikram are walking in the college corridor in a very, it's a tunnel that goes a little dark, and you know, I give her a kiss on the cheek once and get a bit coy, and then she would just, you know, hold me against the wall and finally kiss me on the lips. Very wonderfully choreographed by Vishnu, and it kind of tells you so much about their relationship, the innocence, and yet how Dimple was, and how you know, Vikram was. And I think for me, just that moment defines their love story in a very special, sweet way.
So Vishnu, do you think the film is able to capture the sacrifices that women have to make while we recognize the valor of the men at war?
See, I think it's about their strength. You know, it's more than the sacrifices. You know, it's about their strength. It's their commitment. You know, that's what I really take away from that. You know, because when it comes to, especially because their story, you know, the Dimples and Vikram story, it's a film by itself. You know, it's a film by itself at the purest of its form. You know, that's a due respect that we need to really give. You know, when we really hear of something like that, in today's time, we would like, how is it possible? You know, you just more, how is it possible? You know, that's a kind of a commitment now. That's a kind of sincerity, honesty towards any relationship for that matter.
As a civilian, how difficult or easy was it to, you know, enact Captain Vikram Batra? Because I see that it may be difficult to understand somebody else's point of view, but here we're talking about a man who got Param Chakra, India's one of the most prestigious awards for bravery. So what are your thoughts about that?
I feel it was extremely challenging, slightly pressurizing to live up to the personality that Captain Vikram Batra was, and the kind of love and respect he has within the Indian Army, or you know, how fondly his loved ones or his family remembers him. They all have such amazing, warm stories of you know, him being this typical good-hearted Punjabi boy who makes everybody smile.
होनहार विरवान के होत चीखने पात, तो बचपन में इतना हंसमुख, इतना खुश मिजाज और बातों बातों में ही दिल बहलाने वाला बच्चा था.
सभी की इज्जत करना, सबसे प्यार करना, सबकी हेल्प करना, ये कुदरती उनमें भरी हुई थी, ये गुण जो भरे हुए थे. इसकी वजह से वो कॉलेज में भी बहुत पॉपुलर रहे. टेबल टेनिस उनका पेट गेम रहा है, वो चैम्पियनशिप गेम खेलते थे और नेशनल लेवल पर भी उनका पार्टिसिपेशन रहा इस गेम में. पढ़ाई के साथ साथ बाकी भी जितनी एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ हैं, सब में वो आगे रहे. और मैं तो यहाँ तक कहूँगा कि स्कूल लेवल पर तकरीबन 50 या 60% प्राइजेस जो हैं वो ले लिया करते थे. एनसीसी एयर विंग के कैडेट वो रहे हैं और वहाँ पर भी ये फोर फ्रंट में रहे. 2 बार ये बेस्ट कैडेट नॉर्थ इंडिया में चुने गए. रिपब्लिक डे परेड के लिए 1994 में चंडीगढ़ से 2 बच्चों की सिलेक्शन हुई थी, जिसमें एक विक्रम थे. उसके बाद में इनकी सिलेक्शन जब ये ग्रेजुएशन कर रहे थे तो मर्चेंट नेवी के लिए हुई, जो कि बाद में फिर इन्होंने निक ऑफ द टाइम उसको रिफ्यूज़ कर दिया, क्योंकि जो पैट्रियोटिक फीलिंग्स थे इनके मन में, वो इनका झुकाव आर्मी की तरफ ज़्यादा हो रहा था. हालांकि एक बार उनकी मम्मी से बात हुई तो वो कहने लगे कि नहीं, मर्चेंट नेवी में पैसा तो बहुत ज़्यादा है, लेकिन मैं सिर्फ पैसा ही सब कुछ नहीं होता, और मैं जो हूँ वो मैं कुछ ज़िंदगी में करना चाहता हूँ और देश के लिए भी कुछ करना चाहता हूँ.
It was a lot of prep to hopefully do that with full honesty and conviction. And I just feel that you know, the only review that I'm waiting for is the parents, is Captain Vikram Batra's parents, because for them it's not anybody else's story, it's their story.
I just wanted to understand how difficult was it to capture these subtle nuances and interacting with their family members and the army officers to actually incorporate all of this in the movie?
Well, I think the most difficult part was to show most of his personality in just 2 hours. The number of scenes that we have in a film, we had far more information, we had far more scenes written, far more directions we could go with to show so many different aspects, because there was so much amazing research by Vishnu and Sandeep. In my head, I was just subconsciously picking particular scenes, whether it's his best friend, I want to show this part of his personality, whether it's with his lover, Dimple, I want to show this part of his personality. A lot of prep went into, not making him, see, because I'm not mimicking anyone. He's not a famous personality per se, where he's not an actor. So the idea was never to mimic anyone, it was just to give you the emotional essence of this simple Punjabi boy, grew up in Palampur, studied in Chandigarh, and had some heroic and magnificent leadership qualities that he, at 24, achieved, one of the most difficult missions. And has left everybody else in awe. So it's very difficult to say that I did this or one bit or that bit. It's a culmination of everything. It's a culmination of all the information you have, and obviously then you try to portray it to the best of your abilities.
So Vishnu, were there any shots that you thought would be difficult to take but turned out to be pretty easy, or vice versa?
I think there are two situations like this. The first situation is the first shot of the film opening is when I wanted to see Dimple and Vikram together, because that is going to set the tone, and that is going to set for always the first difficult shot is the first shot on the first day when you place. When that magic works, it gives you a phenomenal confidence that, okay, now you're going to run with full speed, that with full confidence. And the second most difficult thing was a whole schedule, actually. It's not one day or one shot. The whole schedule, which was Kargil. It was like,
was easy.
I till now, I don't know how we pulled it off, actually, because I don't know what drove us. I think all of us were so charged. I mean, at that time, when we landed, it was 370. They announced 370. Everybody, all the networks were shut. We don't know where the trucks were, where the technicians were stuck, and by the time they could assemble, every day was like, it was just a reminding, forget about the shots actually that you keep, because at that kind of a terrain, at that altitude, to film itself was a challenge on a daily basis. Every minute was a challenge, and we wouldn't be able to pull it off if we didn't have the support of the Indian Army and the locals over there. It is impossible, and we are so fortunate enough to shoot in a terrain like that, because we were imagine trying to get a location which is very close to, I mean, pretty much in Palampur, Chandigarh, everywhere were the actual locations that we filmed, just to try to be so. See, people may not know, okay, interview me will tell, this is a real location, this is a real location. It's not about, it's about you being very honest with it. This location is accessible, and sometimes when you see the actors performing there, it is almost a real event happening. It's like a deja vu, I have seen this happening before. I think this is how it would have happened. It just adds a sense of sincerity that you're doing. So for that matter, every shot was like this. These two things, the first day of the first shot, and when you come back to your Kargil, the whole schedule is almost like one, it's like put together, it was, I mean, we were really blessed, actually, I should say that.
Shooting in Kargil, us being the first Hindi film to really shoot it at that location, it's 12,000 to 14,000 feet above sea level where we were shooting. There's lack of oxygen, the wind speed is different, and Kargil mountains are predominantly made of massive rocks and mud. There's no grass, there are no trees to really take shade in or comfort in, and it was a massive challenge for Vishnu and team to shoot, because of course actors are going there, lack of oxygen, we can still make it physically, we're running, we're panting and trying to get stamina to do all those actions. But if you can't have your equipment, what are we performing for? It has to be captured correctly, it has to be captured precisely, and so all the war scenes, I think all these difficulties has made our war sequences slightly more fresher and newer and authentic and a little more raw than the previous films that you've seen in Hindi cinema. I feel all these difficulties will add to a little better experience for the audience.
What happens is, see, during the research, you learn that, he's just like you. He's just like one of you. And it's sometimes when before you meet or before you gather information, you would think that it's something which is a phenomenal thing, like he's dropped from the alien, dropped from the sky, it's like this. But no, that what takes him, that's what happened during the research, Arey, he's just like you. But the difference is, when you connect, does he think like you? There are situations where you connect to your own life. I have gone through this, man. I've gone through this. But when I have gone through this, what decision have I taken? How difficult was it my life? Did I flip this side, or did I make it? Did I convince myself, or was I challenging? So it just connects you on a very personal level what he had gone through. And the filming thing, when during the filming, it pushes your limits. Because you understand, it made you realize that what they did at that particular point, is something phenomenal than what you're actually doing today. That it made you, it drove you. You realize the kind of spirit that you had, that yes, I can push myself also. Yes, I've got that, I have to do it. That's a sense of responsibility that you have. Either you have it towards the nation or towards the commitment that you have towards the work that you're doing. It pushes you. You realize a lot about yourself. And by the end of the day, when you finish the filming, this remains very strong in you, that it molds you in a different form.
It was very aspirational to wonder how they made it look so easy, that for him to be so sure, that to know his purpose in life so early, to know that this is my purpose in life, I'm here for the nation, and I'm here for like he chose the army over the merchant navy, even though he would have probably gotten a better salary or whatever. But to know his purpose in life, and to know that it was so selfless, and to know her, for her to make that decision, that it doesn't matter. Like when I spoke with her, there was never, when she was telling me their stories, there was so much pride in her eyes. Like when Sir said, it's a sacrifice, but they're so proud of it. She was so proud of who he was and what he did. And that really stayed with me. And I mean, that's the most aspirational thing. I think to be selfless is to be really strong. So that's something that I hope we all work towards becoming.
What do you think should the audience remember this movie by, and what are the learnings that the audience should take from the movie in your perspectives?
Hopefully take inspiration that at the age of 24, Captain Vikram Batra felt so strongly about his duty, about his country, that for his duty he would go to the most extreme of situations and lay his life and sacrifice his life for our freedom. I feel just for the youth of India and rest of the world, that if you can find that one thing that you're so passionate about and so focused about at that young age, I think that's the question to ask, and hopefully they will find some sense of inspiration from this regular young boy from Palampur who went on to doing some really amazing things for the country.
He's one of our own, and it's a story that we truly believe, should be known by our generations to come. I'm sure people who've lived through this, through the Kargil War, who've been there and aware of it when it happened, will feel that same sense of patriotism and pride that they might have felt at the time. And I would truly hope that through the medium that it's releasing on, it goes beyond the Indian borders and is known to the world, because I'm very grateful that through at least being a part of his film, we're a part of his journey. And if we can be inspired by that, then the sky is everyone's limit.
Yeah, I think it's purely about, what are you committed to, and how sincerely are you committed to it. It could be anything for that matter. Either you're serving the nation, either you're serving your home, or either you're serving your family, your friends, irrespective of anything. With utmost sincerity, how are you committed with, and to what extent you can go to be that, And see, we all have ups and downs in our lives, because his life is also just like any of our lives that we live on a daily basis. It's a lot of ups and downs. But how do you overcome everything, and how do you actually make sense of what you're going to do? So eventually it's about self-realization, and how strong are you in believing what you are capable of doing. Are you going to make a difference, and how committed are you, and how sincere are you to that commitment? That is what he is all about. He could just come across like any of us, but that's the kind of strength, and that's the kind of thing which I really feel he had, because that's what I really feel that, now that's what even during the course of the filmmaking, I say, okay, now how serious am I to this? If you're feeling I'm so glad that, you know, when people say that I'm getting goosebumps when I see it, you know, that's the kind of sincerity you actually wanted to commit yourself to, you know.
Thank you so much for your time, Siddhant,
Thank
Kiara,
you.
and
Thank you so
Vishnu.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.